Hello everybody, my name is Benji and welcome back to Dyson Sphere program, where in between episodes I have been doing quite a bit, actually, sorry. Also not sorry, because this probably would have been pretty boring to watch. I literally just doubled our power output currently, using some Mark II belts that I handcrafted myself, and a little bit of just self-proliferation. So now we have an entire copper vein dedicated, or coal vein entirely dedicated to nothing but power, and that's all we'll ever be using this entire vein for, is literally just power. Also, in between episodes, I have been making multiple trips back and forth between Asad Astralis 1, the lava planet that we visited either last time or 2 episodes ago, I think last time, and this current planet, our homeworld, just grabbing a whole bunch of silica in order to craft these processing units, and also green motors and stuff for belts, and then all of the rest of the stuff that we needed over here for planetary logistics and logistics drones. Which we have 300 drones. It's not a bad start, in all honesty. However, we are lacking... What are we lacking? Oh, iron. I could have solved that issue. I didn't actually notice that that was an issue. But also, in the meantime, I have done every single science that has to do with red and blue science. So we have the solar sail stuff. I believe I talked about that. We have high-speed assembling with the Assembler Mark II, which we don't need to worry about yet. We have deuterium fractionization, or fractionalization, whatever the word is, with the fractionator, which we're going to get into later, the deuterium process. We're not going to worry about it yet, because there's no point yet. We don't need it for anything. The first thing we'll need it for are these deuterium fuel rods for the mini fusion power, and we will need those, we just don't need them yet. We also got the reinforced thruster, which will help in getting to the interstellar logistic systems with these guys, the interplanetary stuff. But we also need this high-strength titanium alloy and a bunch of other things before we can actually get to this. The other thing that I did in between episodes that you guys are going to thank me for is this blueprint book. I went through all of the basic recipes and set up blueprints so that we don't have to be bothering with all of that nonsense on camera. So what I want to accomplish this episode is finding a space on this planet, which I think I'm going to do down here, for our main smelting rig. And the main smelting rig is going to consist essentially of one blueprint each of each of the things, because each blueprint gets us, what is it, 12, 24, 48 items per second. And I don't even know if we're going to be able to achieve 48 items per second in terms of mining speed on the entirety of the planet. So we don't really need to worry about that all that much. We just want to be here so that we can stamp down the blueprints and have the capacity just in case we need the capacity. And yeah, I think this area is gonna do us just fine. So the way this is gonna work is we're just gonna take... Oh, it's right along the equator too, because the equator is here, roughly. So that's actually pretty dope. So how this is gonna work is we're going to take each blueprint, and I'm gonna line it up on the planetary grid. I'm gonna center it right there. Just like that. And that is copper. And then we go into the blueprint book, and we grab the iron. And this one will be easier to line up because we already lined up one. And then we're actually gonna want 2 of the iron ones, because steel, where is it? This blueprint book. Steel requires iron. And then we'll put this down there. And you'll see this little thing here is telling me that I'm out of smelters, Which, yeah, of course we're gonna be out of smelters. Like, it should be obvious that I've already run out of smelters. We need hundreds to set stuff up like this. Like, literally, we need hundreds of smelters. Late game builds and stuff like that, which I won't tease any. I won't tease on the large end game builds, but they need thousands of smelters. Literally thousands of smelters. So we're just gonna let the bots do this for a little bit. Make sure that everything is set correctly. So this is demanding copper ore. Copper ore is coming out of the outputs. That's the other thing I need to go through and check, because some of these I think I did forget to set them. And then the next thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna put in probably 20 each, because I don't think 10 will be enough, but we don't have enough to do 20. And then take that min load of drones and crank it to 100%. That way less drones are going out less often. And then we just repeat that process for all of them. We grab 20, put it there, 100%. And then we walk over here, let the drone place down the tower, grab 20 drones, smack them in, crank it to 100%. And then we come over here, we let the drones do the thing. This is the steel blueprint. Grab 20 of them, crank it to 100%. And it's really that simple. Like, that's all that this is. And this entire chunk will be taken up by these very, very large smelting rigs. I'm gonna have to do one for the magnets and one for all of the stone materials as well. However, I will just allow all of this to construct off camera. That way you guys don't have to live through the pain of slow early game drones. At least not until you decide to play this game for yourself. And we're gonna have to charge as well. And that's essentially all I'm gonna be doing. I will go on ahead and grab the one for graphite, which actually the one for graphite is wrong. So I'm gonna need to fix this one for graphite. This is only half of what it's supposed to be. So instead, what we can grab... I keep forgetting I need to actually click on this again. You can grab the magnets and find the good place for magnets. That's gonna be in the oil node, so that's not good. I was gonna say that's gonna need foundation. So that might actually be something I go do right now, is set up a place for foundations, because we're gonna need to support some stuff for foundation. Real quick, so I don't have to show it, foundation is literally just 3 stone and 1 piece of steel for each foundation. So I'm just gonna go back to the mall, hook up a couple of assemblers for this, and it'll really just be that easy. There's not really anything else to say for that. And at this point, I will be right back, and you'll see the finished product. This is what this game has become. Rows upon rows of smelters. It's glorious. It is fantastic. It is perfect. Now, something I didn't mention. I am going to be keeping the mall over here, this spaghetti monster mess. Mainly, I'm going to be keeping this portion of the mall. I will eventually be ripping out the sciences, and we will be doing science much in the same way as we've done all of our current smelting for the mid-game, which I believe is what I would call where we're at currently. Nah, maybe not yet. I'd say we're still late early game, which some of you are probably hearing that and going, what the heck do you mean? This monstrosity is late early game. Oh, it's so satisfying. Oh, it is so satisfying. That's a thumbnail. That's a thumbnail right there. That is so satisfying to see all of the little, like, towers moving. Anyway, this is late early game, and the answer to that is yes. Look at the tech tree. The tech tree is, like, halfway done, and it only ramps up from here in true factory game fashion. So we have a lot more to get through for this game to finally, you know, be complete. So next up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to boop around, and I think at first I'm only going to tap, like, 2 decent-sized veins for each resource. So, like, I'll probably tap these 2 because they're super close together. I might honestly just put a little station, like, right here, and then just tap everything here. Tap this iron vein. This iron vein is currently being utilized, but I'll find some veins here and there that I can just kind of boop on a little bit of mining and a planetary logistics station. So we're going to start that off with a big ol' boop. We're going to start this off with a big ol' boop. This is essentially what a lot of the map is going to look like. Anywhere that there's high density of resources, which this is one area. There's a lot of coal here. I might honestly go ahead and tap this. I didn't notice this was coal. I thought it was more stone. But we put down this tower, put some drones in it, and all we have to do to get it working is select stone, copper, and coal as our lovely supplies, and then look at the drones. They are so slow. They're so slow, but they're working. They are working. Look at them go. Amazing. Now, you'll see another thing here. It says transport range of drones, 180 degrees. So that 180 degrees has to do with the amount around a planet it can go. Obviously, planets are spheres, so they can only have 360 degrees. Half of that's 180 degrees in either direction. So you can set these to have a certain limit of supply in order to not go the entire way around a planet. But I never really have found a use for that, so I just set them to be 100% open like this. And as you can see here, we've got some resources stockpiling, but we do have more drones coming in right now to grab those resources. And if we come back over here, we're about to see some deliveries. We delivered some copper, we delivered some stone, and we delivered some coal. And we will see this entire place come to life. Well, not entire place, because we don't have any iron yet, but look at that. Start to see the blinking of the inserters as the copper begins getting delivered. And then over here, we should be seeing the same. Was I a dunce, and I forgot to set the exports for these? I think I did. Well, that's a shame. I'll have to fix that eventually. But for right now, this is essentially all there is to it. I'm gonna go tap these 3 veins here, more than likely. And then I'm gonna come up here and I'll probably tap these 3 veins. And that's really it. Once I'm done tapping everything, we can start to do our other production blueprints, which are the gears, the prisms, copper magnets, and chips. The green chips. And that'll just be that. It'll be a really nice start. We'll probably end today with blue science cubes being finished. At least being finished in regards of being finished with the planetary logistics stations. And then we'll move on next time, or if we have time today, we'll move on to some planetary blueprints revolving around oil. So I'll see you after a few more boops. And just like that, we have overwhelmed my power grid. Placing in all of these miners. I was even trying to mitigate that a little bit by putting like wind turbines and stuff to power the miners and to distribute power to the miners. And still we crashed my power grid again. Like I was certain that my power grid was going to be solid for this episode when I worked things out. And I was wrong. I was dead wrong. I was completely dead wrong. And that's nobody's fault but my own, and my own, you know, piss poor, you know, preparation for all of this. But come on, man. Like, I tapped this entire node. The whole node is completely tapped. Ugh, I put in, you know, proliferation, and it still just completely has destroyed my power grid. I don't really know what to do about this. Like, I really don't know what to do about this, because I can't tap more of this. Like, this is tapped out. It's done. I cannot fit more miners on here unless I refinagle it really stupidly, and I don't feel like doing that right now. I'm at a loss. I'm at a loss, man. What do I do? What do I do? I have so many things working. It looks beautiful. And it's not working because I don't have the power. I'm legitimately stumped. Like, I straight up do not know what to do. And our power grid is suffering. Like, we're demanding 300 megawatts, and we're producing roughly 60 megawatts, which is nowhere near enough. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, man. I really don't know what to do. Well, I can think of one thing to do, and that is to shut this down temporarily. So where are we hooked into power? We're hooked into power on the south side. At least I think this is the south side? Yeah, we're hooked into power over here. So if I just get rid of that, that helped, that did help. That took away about half of our current demand. So if that took away half, what we can do is we can just get rid of these. And then that will charge them, but it won't send them out. And then we can just put them back later. Yeah, because now it'll just, yeah. That's what we gotta do. We have to do that for right now. Man, so if we have to shut this down, that means I can't build any of the rest of these, because that will further strain our system and completely screw us in terms of power. What kind of power solutions do we have? Well, actually, we do have something. We do have something. We have the solar sails and the ray receivers. We could use those. Yes. Yes, that is a good idea. I like that idea. I like that idea. I'm glad I looked for generation methods. So, first of all, in order to make those, what we're going to need is some blue motors, and blue motors require green motors, and green motors we already have done. Super duper compact. A little farther up this direction. I went a little far. Right here, we have our green motors. Blue motors take a lot of the same stuff as green motors. There's no room for that here. There's no way. Blue motors take a lot of the same stuff as green motors. They actually do take just straight up green motors. So what I might do is just take the green motors and then hand feed some blue motors and hand feed some ray receivers and some electromagnetic rail rejectors. That's what EM stands for. So let's go on ahead, let's do that. A lot of our handcrafting is down here to the south. Because I think this is the south. I'm taking this as the south, I could be wrong. So we can just put these guys here and here, and we can put a box in the middle because they require a lot of the same stuff. Like, they require steel, microprocessors, like the gold chips and blue motors. That's one thing that they have in common across everything. The other one, actually no, that's it. Then this guy is going to require silicone and these photon combiners, which we can actually set up on the bus. We can set that up on the bus. And then this requires gears, which gears are like literally the easiest thing. We literally just take iron and do that. And then gears, EM rail ejector, like this. And then we'll need another box here to put stuff in. And then we'll need a box for the outputs. And then we can do that. And now I get to just go gather the materials and get this working. And you guys get to see it working. Yay! A BRB. And there we have it. The only thing I'm gonna do is craft one of these. That way this is a little faster. Go on ahead and upgrade that, and then I'm also just gonna put more of these on pretty much everything, like that. And that should be... this should be everything. The gold chips are required there. I don't really need any more of these, because if I have any more of these, I'm gonna crash my grid. I also have 8 in my inventory, so that's perfectly fine. So steel is stocked, gears are stocked, processors are stocked. Blue motors are currently under construction and working. The only thing is these photon combiners and then the high purity silicone. So what we're gonna do for that, actually, let's see if it's possible anywhere here. The answer is it would have been if I wasn't a dunce and wired this all super weird. Oh, why'd I wire it like this? This was stupid of me. It's fine. I can just take a belt over and then back down. And then we can do this. It's a janky solution, but it's a solution nonetheless, and right now I don't need a whole ton of these guys. I only need enough. We'll make like a legitimate setup for these. Probably as an end to the video, because we're gonna need them in large quantities. But for right now, I'll take them on a belt and I'll run them over. Yeah, I may as well. I don't really see a reason not to put them on a belt and run them. Let's just make sure that this is working. It is. I'm gonna upgrade. I can't upgrade either of them. It's fine. It's fine. I'm suffering inside. This is fine. I had this whole plan. I was like, it's gonna work. It's gonna work. It's gonna work. And then I actually got here, and lo and behold, it doesn't work because I didn't have enough power. And I really, really thought that I did. But that's fine. That's okay. So these rail ejectors and ray receivers are part of the actual Dyson sphere. They are on the main track of the research, the main quest line, to get to the actual Dyson sphere, which is where here. The vertical launching silo and the Dyson sphere. Which means, essentially what they do is, let's see if there's a description, launch a large amount of solar sails into the orbit of the star to form a Dyson swarm. So we're going to need a production line for these solar sails, which is going to require a lot of graphene, which is going to require a lot of sulfuric acid, because we're using the base recipe. It's also going to require a lot of coal, which is part of the reason why I wanted to use the planetary logic stuff, because there's no coal near oil with space. But that's not going to happen anymore. So essentially, what they do is, this is the Dyson Sphere editor / Dyson Swarm editor, and what we do is we send sails into an orbit. We can change the color now? That's kind of cool. Can I edit this orbit? I cannot edit this orbit. So let's go on ahead and let's add an orbit. So here's our orbit. It's... oh, apparently that's too close to a planet. So if we have it out, it ends up not... it ends up being around a planet. Actually, that sounds dope, I'm not gonna lie. So let's make it... nah, I want it close to the sun. I like having my swarms close to the sun, that way it's easier to deal with finding angles. And we're just gonna go on ahead and put everything perfectly straight, perfectly up and down, just like this. And then we'll make that orbit. And there we go. Now we have an orbit. Can we... okay, that doesn't... so now we have this orbit, and once we actually start making the sails and launching them with these rail ejectors, we will be able to see the swarm around the star and then harvest the energy with the ray receivers as a power source. So I think we could probably... I have no silicone here. The only silicone I have is all of this stuff. Give me. Because like I said, we don't need a ton of these. We only need a few of these. And these guys are decently large. And they have to be spaced pretty far apart. And the way that they work, let me just place one down, is you select that orbit, and then once you put a solar sail into it, it'll actually begin firing. Can I craft one of these by hand? I don't have any glass, so let's just take some of these. And it's not going to be a very good representation with only two. Oh, it's nighttime. Well, never mind then. There's no point in doing that. But as you can see, it tracks the sun, and it will actually launch the solar sails out as soon as it gets line of sight on the sun. So that'll be our power solution. In order to get that power solution taken care of, let's find some space somewhere. How about just here? Here seems good enough. We are going to use the system that I just created, even though I did take it offline. There is still some stuff that the drones can take in order to utilize. So we're going to go on ahead, we're going to put this here. And in order to make these solar sails, We need the photon combiners and the graphene. Actually, I don't think that's gonna be reasonable. No, it's not. We're gonna need our other blueprints first. In that case, we're gonna need a temporary setup for this, which is something I wanted to avoid, but we can do it. It's just gonna be a little bit of a nuisance finding the space for all of the belts and finding resources that are decently close to one another. Honestly, I still think this place is going to be the best option, because it's got the stone, it's got the iron. And the other option is we just deal with the power as it is, and just let it fly anyway. And I think that's what we're going to do, because it's going to be easier. Is it going to be more efficient? No. It's going to be easier. And I feel like doing it. So we're going to do it. We're just going to let her rip by placing this back. And that immediately destroys our entire power grid. But that's fine. What do we still need? Well, to get to what we're currently wanting, we're gonna need these, which are the prisms, the little triangular prism things, and we're gonna put those over here, and we'll just put all of our blueprints here. I'm also out of belt Mark IIs. That's convenient. So, prisms. Then the other thing that we need for the photon combiner is the E-circuits. So, let's grab the circuit board blueprint, the planetary chips, and just put it there. Autosave, which will eventually take progressively longer and longer over time as I place more objects. Ooh, I'm gonna run out of power. No! Ah! Okay. Man, I don't even have anything to fuel. Oh, I can fuel myself with graphene, but that's like... That's... Oh, I have coal. Never mind. I do have power. Okay. We're fine. We're fine. So now we have both of those placed. Next, we're gonna need to legitimately find an area where we can put down the photon combiner recipe, which we can use this. Like, we can just use this blueprint and then change the recipe and change the planetary logic station. Or we could build it all from scratch, which I don't think would be as interesting or as fun. And then we're also going to need graphene, which we currently have some graphene being made here, and I could just steal it. Yeah, I think that's what we'll do, and we'll end with the solar sails being finished. So I'm gonna get the belts, I'm gonna make the new blueprint, and I will bring you guys back at that point. The final touches just went in on this whole thing here. We've got a nice big ol' array. The only issue is the fact that this is not actually outputting glass, which means I messed up the blueprint, which is a bit sad, but I don't feel like replacing the blueprint right now, because this has already been an immense amount of work. I did have to turn the iron back on, which means that our satisfaction is currently not great, because of the fact that I had to turn all of the iron back on, although I suppose I could just do this with the steel. Yeah, no, I'll do that with the steel. I was gonna say it's close, but it's close to being done the steel, not being done in general. And then here we have... Sorry, these need to be set to demand. And now you can see we've got photon combiners dropping into here. And once we go get the graphite and all of our other handy things that we have handcrafting, which I'm also just going to go on ahead and unlimit that. Get rid of the limit in its entirety. How many do we have? We've got 11. That is perfect. Actually, we have 16 total. I didn't realize I still had one in my inventory. And then we have 6. Okay, not bad, not bad. What did we run out of? Blue motors. Of course. Blue motors have been a pain. But now that we have all of these, what we can do is, first of all, we can find the sun in reference to the planet. In reference to the planet, the sun is primarily at the equator. That's good. That's going to make my life easier. However, that also means that I don't really want to put the solar sails directly at the equator, because then there will be time that they have to fire directly up. And if they have to fire straight up, they can't. They can only tilt so much. So I'm actually going to go put these guys at the planet poles instead. By planet poles, I mean this pole. This pole is filled with water. We're going to put them here. So let's grab our swarm launchers right here. And just place a few. Grab our foundation that we automated. So we can actually place down more of them. And then from here, we're gonna wrap the belt around, like so. And then we'll put them in. I just tried to factorial button. He's too far away. There we go. Now the issue with these guys is getting power to them, because they need room to like rotate and stuff because they're guns. We can only place the power poles like really far back. And it's kind of a nuisance. Because if we have to place them this far back, we can only place one tower per thing. And that's just annoying. Also, don't want to waste foundation or soil when we don't have to. That's another thing I haven't really talked about at all, is the soil piles. So you'll see over here it says soil piles. And when I pull this out, you'll see it will consume a certain amount of soil piles. You can't just put foundation and expect it to work on like open ocean water. It needs to have a foundation first, which is where that whole thing about the soil comes into play. Now here, I'm just gonna go on ahead and do this to keep continuity. That. And then we'll do this. And this. And this as soon as it's done. Boom. Now we will place in our these. There we go. That should be set to 2. There it is. And now we should have the ability to be shooting as soon as this belt is finished. So I'm gonna finish this belt. And here we go, we have the belt. They don't make any noise, which is very sad, but you can see now that they are indeed firing. And then we can run this over to here, just somewhere kind of close to the equator. Let's see how close we can get to the equator. Hey, look at that, we can actually get right on the equator. And we're gonna want to space these guys out, that way they're all working in some capacity throughout different times of day. Because if they aren't all working, like if they aren't in range of the sun, they won't work. And then you can see here some information just to wrap up the video They have a continuous receiving nozzle, which will increase depending on if it's actually continuously receiving or not. The maximum output that it can give, and the power that it is requesting, it can request up to 20 megawatts, and our current Dyson Swarm, or Dyson Sphere, is only doing barely anything. And that's because of the fact that we just started launching these sails. Like, if we had been launching these sails for longer, we would have more power. You can see there something's up with the orbit that it doesn't like. So it's trying to shoot from here to where? To way down there. It's trying to shoot way down. Okay, in that case, I definitely want to edit this orbit. I wish I could edit. Can I edit the orbit? I can edit the orbit. Alright, let's cut the orbit in half. 4,000. Instead of 8,000. That should give them all a little bit of a lower angle to shoot from. And obviously, the day-night cycle is going to cause some issues with that as well. And the other thing that's going to cause issues is as we go around our current planet that we're satelliting, this will block our view. Which is kind of sad. I'm not a huge fan of that fact, but it is a fact, and there's not really anything that we can do about it. But there we go! We have the beginnings of a Dyson Swarm. And you can see the one sail that got into the adjusted orbit there. There he goes. He's being a cute little guy. But that is all I have time for. I've actually gone like 10 minutes over schedule here. I usually try to keep these around a half hour, but there was a lot that we had to get done, and I did not feel good or comfy not doing it. So, thank you everybody so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed, because I know I certainly did. But without further ado, adios, sayonara, au revoir, hasta la vista, das vidania, auf Wiedersehen, ciao, and goodbye. Please have yourselves all a wonderful day. Get some sleep if you need to. Don't forget to stay hydrated. This video is in the bag, and I will see you guys in the next one. Later, y'all.